You're listening to the Culture Junkie Podcast, where we go beyond the surface of pop culture.
I'm Keith.
And I'm Xandra. Together, we dive into the craft process and passion that drive today's creators. This is the Culture Junkie Podcast. Life moves fast and your insurance should too. With on-the-fly insurance, you can compare rates, customize your coverage, and get a quote in minutes. It's 100% online, 100% secure, and 100% Canadian. So whether you're on the go or planning ahead, protect what matters most with ease. Head to ontheflyinsurance.com and get protection made easy. Built for life on the fly. Links in the bio or in the show notes below. Happy New Year! We wanted to celebrate by playing clips from our favorite creators who were on the Culture Junkie podcast in 2025. So take a listen and go back and check out the full episode or watch one we weren't able to fit into this retrospective. Looking forward to 2026, where we'll be launching our Culture Junkie Patreon. You can get early access to episodes, exclusive content, and much more. So stay tuned and looking forward to seeing you in 2026.
Good afternoon. I'm interviewing Canadian director Gail Harvey. She's had a long and storied career, but has always stayed in Canada. That's one of the things I want to talk to her about. Look back on your body of work. What's your favorite? What would you want to be remembered for? Which one or ones? Yeah.
I don't think I could pick a favorite. It's like pick your favorite kid, you know?
I can.
You can?
I can pick my favorite. No, not really.
I don't know. But I mean, really, like something that I loved directing Virgin River. That was excellent. The people are so nice. And the stories were very well written, beautiful stories. But I mean, I did a film, Looking to the Original Sin, that I'd been in my head for like 20 years when I finally did it. I started thinking about it when Katie was 3 and she played the 19-year-old part. Or whatever,
Wow.
So she was 22 or something when she played the part. But it's kind of inspired by Diane Arbus. So it's about photography and it's about artists and having to choose between, the sacrifice your own work for your family or sacrifice your family for your own work. It's played by Maria Del Mar. Her name's Helen in it. And she actually moves into an artist colony, kind of leaves. And Katie's her daughter, and she decides to go looking for her, which I also have often thought that I've got a whole room full of negatives that are all like in sleeves and everything. My kids could look at all the things I looked at, if they wanted to. Like for years and years, I started shooting when I was a flight attendant, so I was 20, 21. They could look at all those negatives and see what I saw, which is a pretty cool thing. So anyway, she looks through her mother's negatives, and that's how she finds her. Sees people and goes and meets the people and then decides she's going to try to be a photographer. And my dad's in that movie because she goes and knocks on the door and says, "Can I come in and take your picture?" Because, you have to be pretty ballsy when you're a photographer. That means how I learned to talk to people. Like, hey, I went to China once. And I mean, that was early on when they just opened it to the Western world. Canadian Airlines had gotten a flight there. First one out of Canada. And they asked me to go and take pictures for their magazine. And that's another funny thing. You had to travel in groups, and they put me with a group of people that worked in film in LA out of the blue. And I ended up working with some of those people afterwards, as they were producers on movies that I did still photography on. But I would and you had a guide and everything was planned then, but he would let me cheat, and he'd write down wherever we were staying and how to get there in Chinese on a piece of paper. And then I'd just take off and go off on my
up later.
Back in the days when you turn around, there'd be 10 people following you. But it was really interesting, like really great.
Wow.
Yeah.
Gail, listen, thanks for this. It's been awesome. I just have one more question,
Okay.
and I always ask these people, is there a question that you wish people ask you more often or that I forgot to ask you?
That's a good question that you have, but I don't think you forgot to ask me anything, really.
I know. Oh, I wrote it down.
I mean, well, you didn't ask me about my art exhibit that I just had, which is
That's true.
For doing
Tell me about your art exhibit.
The singing was like that. When we were singing, I used to sing, right? As you know, when I was young, sang with Crowbar, a whole bunch of bands like that. And then I stopped and then started again when Angelina said, you want to sing backup? And it was fantastic. I just loved working with you on that. And then
awesome.
I in another band, and now I'm in a choir. And I used to draw all the time, as I told you. So I started drawing and painting again, which is
Where was
interesting.
the exhibit?
It was at a gallery called the Backlane Studio, I think it's called, but it's just off Roncesvalles. And again, a connection, a woman I used to work with at the Toronto Star bought it, and she has all kinds of really cool artsy things happening there. So I'll send you a picture. You didn't see it on
Yes,
Facebook?
please. Listen, you're up in the office. You're up in the office as a part of our
Right,
gallery.
your picture, yeah.
Yes, I do. Pictures of me taken by
Pictures of
you.
you, the
Anyway,
handsome leader of our band.
yeah.
Mm.
Listen, Gail, thank you so much for this. I mean, it's always great to talk to you. It's been too long since we caught up,
Yeah.
and hopefully we can speak again soon about another one of your projects because you're really multi-talented.
Okay, that'd be great. And also we could just go out and hang out too. That'd be good.
Absolutely. That goes without saying.
Don Chubey is a broadcaster, award-winning broadcaster, media trainer, and live shopping strategist. National television, captivating audiences on breakfast television, Cityline, and the Shopping Channel. She has interviewed thousands of guests, delivered live segments with zero room for error, and mastered the art of online, on-camera communication, engagement, and conversation. So we're so happy to have you here today to share some of your tips, tricks, and insights into just being on this platform as an entrepreneur and strategist for selling online products.
Well, you said zero room for error, and I'm going to argue that there is lots of room for error. It's just how you pick yourself up after those errors. So that's lesson number one. Thanks for having me, Zandra. And I believe, Zandra, it comes from probably this idea of what maybe TV home shopping, what they think it is. And maybe it's what it once was, but it's not necessarily this hard and fast rule of what live shopping and home shopping is, which is the whole, but wait, there's more, buy now.
Yeah.
Like we know that there are concepts to creating a successful live event, a successful compelling offer, a limited time offer, sometimes gamification. We know this to be true. But I think, there's this idea that a brand feels like they don't want to hard sell, which I think is one of the biggest, misconceptions, is that it has to be. And so when I guide brands or creators to embrace live shopping or social commerce or, and all the benefits that happen after the live, that big halo effect, is that it can be whatever you want. So for instance, I recently helped a digital marketing agency and essentially helped them bring a Medi-Spa to live. So there was a live shopping event for a Medi-Spa. Now, to my knowledge, this may have been the very first live shopping event for a Medi-Spa, possibly in the world. I have never of somebody doing this. I've never seen anybody doing this. It's certainly not something you would see on TV home shopping. So I'm going to say I think it actually was. And what we did is we did a live demonstration of a beautification treatment. So it was 4 syringes and all the things. Now, it was a 2-camera, and we're using a phone and a computer. So, for brands that are listening out there, I just want you to know that there literally, if you want to know if something is possible, I'm going to tell you the answer is yes.
Yeah.
We just have to figure out the best way to do it so it feels natural to you. And so with this particular live event, we literally, had me as the host navigating many of the questions that a person might have, like, does this hurt? What are the steps? Can I exercise after? Am I going to look like I got duck lips? Am I going to, if you're afraid of Botox, like all these things. And we had an award-winning injector who was answering these questions. And we sold over 40, the limited time offer, and these were at $2,200 a piece. So you guys do the math. So, and that's in 1 hour.
Wow.
In 1 hour.
Wow.
Now, listen, I gave you a very extreme thing, but what else can this look like? Well, I worked with a person who is a nutritionist and a fitness professional who launched a digital product of a meal subscription plan. And so she was literally selling meal plan subscriptions at $14.95. So
what did we bespoke ones?
No, it's just literally, it's called Meals by Simone, and it's just literally, it's to obviously work with your metabolism, probably targeted women in menopause and peri, but not really. It was just literally save time, and it was a lot of meal prep. And so how did we produce that? We did it on the phone.
Yep.
And we did an event that looked very similar to the kinds of segments you would see on breakfast television.
Yeah.
Or Cityline, right? Or back in the day, City Cooks or Food Network. And so this, again, we sold over 70 subscriptions in a 1-hour period. And because it's a digital subscription, that's recurring income. There's no extra. So then there's no extra heavy lifting. So I just want everyone to sort of think like, gosh, like what could I do something that feels natural to me and doesn't feel like TV home shopping? Yeah, you can. And can you do it like TV home shopping if you want? Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
You can do whatever you want.
You can say the possibilities are endless.
The idea that someone is going to just sell at any cost. And I think this is where live shopping, and we see the data, right? Coresight and McKinsey talking about the upwards of 30% higher conversion. I've seen that myself with the brands that I've worked with during the live event, sometimes converting 18%, 20%, 30%, as much as 40%, sometimes doubling the sales in the replay. But what we're talking about is not selling at any cost. And so what I love about live shopping is that you do have a chance to be that advocate. So even with TV home shopping, the goal was never just to sell at any cost. If something is not right for you, we actually don't want you to buy it, because then we deal with returns and lack of trust. And, if Dawn said it was perfect for everyone, no, nothing can possibly be perfect for everyone. And in TV home shopping, the barrier we have is we don't have that real-time interaction typically.
Right.
Sometimes if, even at TSC, if we would simulcast on Facebook, we could maybe. But what I love about live shopping is we actually can say, listen, if you got a bigger bust like me, I'm sorry, this has no stretch. This size, you are going to have to go 3 sizes up, or this line might not be right for you.
Yeah.
I don't want you to get this home for you, if this is not right for you. And so you can do the same on live shopping. And it's that willingness, Zandra, to give up a sale that also cultivates that trust. And so, yes, it's not about the foot in the door. It's about having someone trust me or you or whoever enough to say, come into my home. I'm not going to I can't force you to watch anything. So what am I going to create? What environment am I setting up? What is the visual? What is the sound quality? And again, using something as simple as a phone that makes the experience welcoming and good. And I think,
easy.
and I think TikTok Shop, and I'm sure everybody has seen that viral video of the gal in China that's like this conveyor belt, and she's lifting up the shirts.
Yes,
and,
yes, I have.
This is not going to ever fly in that way for the North American market at all. And I'm not even sure it really, I think it's, it's a bit gimmicky, but for certain, there are certain markets that will just buy because when someone sees it. And I think we're starting to see, and the data is also saying this as well, like where there is a bit of a lack of trust to some extent on some of the things that you're seeing on TikTok Shop and maybe even on Whatnot and some of these others. So what does it come down to? It really comes down to the host, and the host, whether it's the founder, whether it's a paid actor, celebrity, best friend, influencer, doesn't matter. The person that is there buying from the people as much as they are buying the brand. It's about the relationship, just like you said.
Hey, everybody. Today, we are lucky enough to have my old friend, Tom Barlow, here with us in the studio today. Barlow's career highlights include his breakout hit Walk Away, multiple Juno Award nominations, international performances, so many career milestones. Thanks, Tom. Thanks for coming on with us today.
I'm happy to be here. I'm looking forward to it.
But now you're the sales lead, you're the marketing lead, I bet you do your own accounting, you got to do all of the bookkeeping too, right? I mean, this is what it's like to be in the music industry in 2025. That's changed a lot since when you got started, eh?
Has it ever? And not all for the bad. So I can write a song today, it could have international release tomorrow. That is not something that you could do 30 years ago, 40 years ago when I started in the music business. There are no gatekeepers. But the gate is so wide that every single human with an internet connection can put music into the world. There's a lot of noise, and there's some beauty in the noise, but there's a lot of noise in the noise. Noise in the Noise sounds like a great alt punk band, by the way.
All right, so I think we've known each other for about 45 years. And in all this time, I always tell people that, my friend Tom Barlow is a working musician. And as for most of that time, you've been someone who has music at the core of your day-to-day existence, So what's that journey been like?
Well, journey is a good term for it, because there's times of pure like elation and joy of saying, I think I've made a great piece of art. It's so exciting. There's very few buzzes like it in my experience. And there's times where you just think the well has run dry. Will I ever make a piece of art again? Am I good? Am I shit? Is anyone going to like this? Should I care if anyone's going to like this? Like the games you can fall into when you start, doing the deep dive into your creative, emotional states. The best therapy I find is just to stop thinking and start making art. Just the making of it. That seems to
like that.
It just seems to get me through. I forget who it was, some great writer, Hemingway or something, said, write a poem until Write poems until you write a great poem. And when you write a great poem and you love it, rip it up and throw it away and never look at it again. Because it's not the thing, it's the making of the thing that is where you will get your nourishment. So I'm trying to focus on the making of the thing and less on what happens to that thing after I make it. But then again, like I said, I'm not 20 or 25 or 30 and trying to not have to work, 2 jobs so I can make art. In that world, you have to care about your followers and your Spotify playlists and all of that stuff. Not only do you have to care about it, in many ways, it has to be the center.
Mhm.
Or how do you make a living? How do you make $1? How do you move out of your parents' house?
Yeah. So you find that liberating that you don't have to do that? I mean, like you said, it's been a long time since you've been in the business, and that process has obviously been incremental from going from how it was in the old days to how it is now, as has your life, right? I mean, you've had to have changed with the times in order to stay relevant, So is it better now or?
There are things that are better for sure.
Okay.
There's something fun about being in the chase. There's an element that fires you up, that you're like, I gotta go and write a hit. I gotta go on tour. I gotta make this happen. I gotta grind. I'm gonna grind and grind until something happens. There's something exciting about that. My fear for young artists is you can do all that and make $5,000 a year. 1 million plays on Spotify, $5,000. Like if you have a manager, if you have a co-writer, if you have any other hand in that pie, and there usually are many hands in that pie, even with 1 million plays on your new song, you cannot even come close to making a living. It's a terrible time financially to be an artist. And unfortunately, finances matter, because if you are so worried about having to, get kicked out of your house because you can't pay the rent, that's not a good headspace for making art. A lot of people think it is, that artists are in this, emotional turmoil, and that's where their great art comes from. I don't think so.
Yeah.
All that does is create anxiety and stress and mental block. And so, we as a society, if we want to nurture our artists, we have to find a way for them to be able to somehow at least make minimum wage.
I'm here with Paul O'Gibney, journalist, raconteur, interesting guy all around. Paul's got a bunch of stuff going on. We met during COVID in Barbados when the place was deserted. And, I thought it'd be a great guy to have on the podcast. So here we are. Was there a story that you covered that fundamentally changed how you saw the world?
Fundamentally changed, I suppose. No, not really. Not fundamentally changed. I always saw the words. I suppose the Israel-Palestine thing would be a big one, yeah. Because when I first went to the Middle East, I went down around the south with a guy from the FT and the ANC, and we toured. This is like after liberation of the south by Hezbollah, when the Israelis were occupying it. They had the proxy forces there, the Lebanese army. I mean, no one told me about that before. I mean, you've seen some of your own eyes. I saw the secret prisons they had and so on and so forth. That's what kind of qualified my interest in the Middle East. It was like, no one's told me about this before. Why has this been reported? There's only one main journalist covering it, was Robert Fix. Because he was out in the Middle East at the time where most journalists were sitting at a desk and the parachuted in. Whereas Fisk was based there all the time. So it would be that. I mean, that changed my outlook. And visiting the refugee camps, just seeing the 50, 60 years after creation of State of Israel and the Nakba, the Palestinian issue, it's just unresolved. So that's still unresolved. Now it's probably worse. Look at Gaza. Look what's happened today. I mean, it's not getting any better. I mean, this is, that changed my outlook. This got me interested in doing the Middle East.
So it did. So that kind of prepared you for your filmmaking journey now.
Yeah, kind of give me an insight. I mean, the filmmaking journey kind of started because I couldn't do the journalism anymore because of COVID. So I had an idea for a movie. I mean, it's on the back burner in my head. It was the Northern Bank job, which was basically it's a British, the biggest bank heist in British and Irish history, which was the Northern Bank, which was happened in Belfast about 2004. It's where about 26.5 million sterling was taken from the Northern Bank job, Northern Bank in Belfast. They let them rob the bank. They paid them off. But we're telling the story from we're not pointing fingers because, of course, there's never anyone ever questions for it. The investigation is still ongoing. There's never anyone arrested. The money's never been found. Yeah, they changed the currency. It was the first time ever in history because in the north of Ireland, every bank makes its own currency. All the Northern Bank teams had to be recalled, but it took them 2 weeks to do this. They, I mean, allowed the players to get rid of the money. So, there's talk about being the IRA pension fund. Sinn Féin became the biggest political party overnight. But we're telling it from a story of a kind of an angle of like magical realism. We're telling it that there was a guy whose husband worked in the bank. His family was taken hostage, so he was forced to hand over the money. He worked in the holding centre. So all they did was pull up with a van, load the money in, and they drove away. His wife was taken hostage and gagged and bound. So it's actually her story. So the story is, in her mind's eye, she gets a visitation from a Celtic supernatural entity. And he's cursed. So we're still using magical realism as the vehicle, right, to tell the story. So you can't be Master and Margarita kind of thing. So in her mind's eye, he's shown her what's actually going on. And takes her back through history, pre-history, same players, but he's cursed, has to get his laugh back. Well, Ireland has to be reunited for him to get his curse lifted, sorry. So it's all about that. But it's actually, he's orchestrating events, even though the players don't really realize they're doing. So it's a bit of a twist, a supernatural twist.
Great twist. So, you got some mythology in with the bank robbery. So tell me then, what was the steepest...
All right. Welcome to the podcast. We have Geraldine Lahif today, a wonderful filmmaker. So we got a West Coast filmmaker today, but we're talking about your film.
Yeah, we shot it in the year 2000. Wrote it in 99, shot it in 2000. Finished it this year.
And what would you say to any of the younger people? And when I say younger, I mean like early 30s, like who were born in the 90s and maybe they want to feel what it was like to be an adult in the 90s and go out and feel that culture. Because as you say, there's a big 90s resurgent and there's almost a romanticization of the culture in the 90s. What would you want to say to those club kids romanticizing it, watching your movie and getting something from it, not just from nostalgia, but from the first time experiencing it?
Yeah, great question. Because I went through that in my head. What made the 90s special? And then the trailer sets up all these before surveillance, before smartphones, before hashtags, before the customer was always right. Well, that one's not quite true. But what was life like before? People think it was more innocent and we were less connected, which was nice in some ways. There is a big subplot of the cranky main character trying to get a hold of her boyfriend on a crappy cell phone all nights. And then they get in a fight anyways, because all she has is a cell phone that doesn't even work for texting barely. But as far as romanticizing it, people are people, I'd say as anthropologists, but also you couldn't, it's a bit of a spoiler, but that's okay. There's a beatdown scene. The bouncers were violent at the place I worked, and you couldn't do that anymore. Yeah. And sexism and racism were more blatant in a way that it's more blatant, and you can't be blatant like that anymore. So I don't miss any of those things. Yeah.
Yeah. I think maybe it's been sanitized a little bit for the consumption of the younger people these days, because I'm talking to some of the 30-year-olds, late 20s, and they were like a little shocked at some of the things that went down back in the day.
Yeah, they
And
usually
also,
highlight consent issues too, right? Consent and like lack of DEI in a good way. Yeah, lack of
that is a good
consideration for
point.
people who have different identities. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what was I gonna say? Yeah, you gave us a few stills from the show. And did you have a stills photographer behind there, the whole kit and caboodle?
Yeah, I had a couple of them. Yeah. A lot of, you're going to want this later. You're going to want this for your EPK, even though I didn't know what an EPK was. We had some, and a lot of it became such old legacy footage that we couldn't use it, but the stills were good because you put them on slides.
Yes.
Yeah.
So did you recently take the film footage and digitize it, or was it stored digitally or stored as film this whole time and then you were able to digitize it?
Yeah. It was film, which costs a fortune. I didn't want to throw it away for the longest time. I digitized the best takes. I know that's not what you're supposed to do. You're just supposed to digitize all of them and sync them.
Yeah.
That's the money I had because I was, waiting to get into physio school at the time. I didn't know how I was a student. So I digitized that amount, I put them on digibeta, and then eventually onto a big old hard drive, maybe 10 years ago. And I said, well, there's just enough here that if I want to cut it together, there'll be something there. It's not everything. It was all of the 8mm, cutaway stuff. And then the best takes, which is a no-no. I know that. And then I had the film stock just in case, in the parents' basement, literally the parents' crawl space, until my mom moved out of her place 3 years ago. And something about, you just want to get rid of everything, but also I'm not going to take this back to somewhere to transfer it to digital. I'm just not going to do that.
Yeah.
Whatever I have on those hard drives is going to have to be enough. And it was. I have my editor, Mike Jackson, he did such a good job. He's just such a master at the craft, and he nerded out on the 90s of it for sure. He did color correction, sound mixing. He matched the 8mm and 16mm footage really well, considering the lighting didn't match. And he did say, there's some great performances in there, but it would have been maybe a letter grade better had you had all the footage. This is what we have. And I think he's being a little hard on himself. I think it looks great. I see his point. You get all the best little moments if you transfer everything. So that was one of the technology challenges. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you got the budget, then, perfect is the enemy of good.
Hello, and here we are today with my friend, a very old friend. I won't say how old he is, Mike Ogrodnik. Mike Ogrodnik is the principal at Ogrodnik Art, and they blend public art education and community engagement through Ogrodnik Art. He's a thoughtful and layered guy, and I'm going to ask some questions to uncover his artistic journey. Okay, so we grew up in North York. We grew up in let's just say Bathurst and Lawrence. That was our neighborhood. Has that aspect of Toronto and Toronto in general played a part in the way, I don't know, the way you taught, the way you teach art, does it come into it at all? Our learned growing up experience.
I think of the few teachers that left an inspirational mark throughout the years. And then I think of teachers that in hindsight, or maybe even at those when I was still in school, there was a critique of their methodology. Things were very different. It was very teacher centric. It was all mostly rote. But there was, every once in a while, there was a teacher who sparked an interest. And I thought those sorts of approaches I found them inspiring. In general, living where we grew up, we lived in a little bit of a cocoon, kind of outside of the real world.
Yeah.
It was, our relative little environment. So I suppose that played a role. It must have. It allowed me to feel, I think, safe. On some levels. Whatever risks we took, whatever creativity we wanted to explore, there was no great opposition.
Right. So you found that I guess that would be comforting. You kind of a safety net.
It was totally a safety net.
Yeah. It's funny. I never felt that way about it. At the time, I thought,
no, definitely not at the time.
Especially, when you're 17, you're crazy, there's hormones, there's everything. And, and I didn't understand how comfortable I was in that situation until I moved. I don't know if you remember, I moved in grade 12, but I kept going to Fleming, right? That was but I lived in a different neighborhood and I went back. And when you live somewhere else, you go, wow, this is really a safe environment compared to what other places are. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So, well, you know what, and I guess, you can bring that. And I guess that would be reflected in your art. So what's next in your artistic journey? What are you going to do from here?
I'm still really, really excited about every mural project. I'm in the process of a mural project right now. And I'm at a crossroads with the business side of things. There's opportunities to try to grow this.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not really my wheelhouse. I look to inspiration. When I think in those terms, I look to you. I look to a dear friend of ours who's no longer with us, Leslie Zulop. And I always admired that bravery that, even when we talked about the neighborhood, even going into teaching, That's a safe bubble where you can explore. It's almost an extension of the neighborhood.
Almost.
In a sense. And now that I'm a freelance artist, you start to discover that you are the complete vehicle of your successes or your failures. And I've had a really good run. Right now, I'm working on my 94th mural since I started doing
It's
this.
amazing.
It blows my mind.
Welcome to the podcast, Jessica Dory, a wonderful musician and person from Belleville, Ontario. What saxophone do you play?
I play tenor, alto, and soprano.
Okay, so just the three. And you play in a band, one of a few different musical enterprises in Belleville. Cue the Funk is your main band enterprise.
Yeah, I also play with the Sean Dory Big Blues Band. Sean is my husband, so he is also in Cue the Funk. It's awesome to share a passion like music with your spouse, and we love that we get to do this together. I've done a couple shows with Chatterbox Theatre, and I'm doing a musical with them coming up in November. We did Cabaret last year. It was sold out weeks in advance, and there was like hundreds of people on the wait list. So they decided to remount it this year with the same cast and the same band. So we're really excited it's kind of a dream scenario that if you have so much fun doing a show I just want to do it again, and we get to do it again, which we're all really excited for. So, yeah.
That's amazing that, you guys can share that experience in music. And I wanted to talk about a little bit more of the reason why we were coming on today in October, which is Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
I wore appropriate earrings for today. I think a couple of the main ways that it really helped me is by always having something to look forward to. And with music, there is always a rehearsal, there is always a show, there is always practicing to do. So just always having something to look forward to and something that you can think about other than being a patient in that moment. It is a really nice distraction and very, very helpful just to have that forward thinking to get through treatment. The other way I feel like it has really helped me is this whole process in a very strange way is very empowering. You don't know how strong you can be until you have to be that strong. You have no option other than to go through the hard stuff and get through it. And adding music to that, being able to do a show, 4 days, 5 days post chemo, 11 and 12 days after surgery, it feels very empowering and you feel like a very strong person once you do that and once it's done. So just giving you that confidence to just to get through the hard days and get through the hard things. And also it just gives you something nice to think about, like, oh, that audience was really great, or, oh, I feel like it played that part really well. So those are a few of the specific ways that I feel like music has been helping me cope through this process and will continue to help me cope through the rest of my treatment. Just be familiar with your body. And if there's anything that even slightly triggers a red flag, go get it looked at. And then if you do unfortunately get a diagnosis, again, I'm so sorry that you have to deal with it, but just find your support system, lean into the process and just trust the process. Know that it's temporary. Something that's been really helpful for me is reshifting my thinking into, I feel so crappy from treatment today, I feel really gross, to I get to feel crappy from treatment. I get to feel bad now so I can be okay later.
Yeah.
So I get to have treatment. There's so many people that don't get the opportunity for treatment, and I'm very, very thankful that I do. Just having that mindset of, I get to have treatment. I get to be here. I get to, get old with my husband, which I'm very thankful for.
Yeah. And so just go in as soon as you can. Be a bother. Don't feel like you're being a bother.
I love that phrase.
Get in there.
There's nothing about your health exactly.
And get your support system. Surround yourself with your people, and just take it one day at a time.
And talk to other people that have been through it. They will be your best resource I honestly don't think I would have gotten through this as smoothly without, the friends that I talk to in depth about treatment and just, coping strategies and hearing from people that have come through it like 20, 30, 40 years later. Just it's the theme of this month. It's awareness. Just talk about it.
Yeah.
Be open about it. Talk about it. We all have bodies. It's a possibility for everyone. Just be open and aware and talk about it.
Hey, everyone. Today, I've got a very special guest, friend of mine for a long time, who I've never actually met in person. We met on a old-time boomer platform and had some interesting conversations, and I found this guy's a pretty sharp guy for an American. Luke is a fabulous guitarist, got an extensive collection, and he's got a lot of great stories, so I thought he'd be a perfect person to have on the Culture Junkie podcast. So, Luke, I'm going to ask you a question right away, right from the beginning. What was the moment you realized that you were into the guitar?
This is weird, so let's go for it. All right, there is actually a moment. 1975, I was 10, probably about a month shy of turning 11. The Bee Gees album, Main Course, had just hit with Nights on Broadway and Jive Talkin'. I didn't know anything about the Bee Gees, like not a thing, but Jive Talkin' was really interesting because it had a real well-defined rhythm that was caused really by the drums. But it was the first time I heard an instrument where I thought to myself, I need to be able to do that.
Tell me this. How do you describe your playing style?
I started as a pentatonic guy, just like everybody else, with rhythm. I was interested because of Barry Gibb, but when I started listening to music and playing, it was Angus Young and Joe Perry. AC/DC and Aerosmith were the two that I was listening to. A lot of pentatonic. You can't escape it there. Blues scale, pentatonic minor. And that's pretty much all you're going to hear. So I got a lot of that. And then as the 80s came in, you started hearing the Randy Rhoads guys, Jakey Lee, people using different forms of minor, diminished minor, things like that. And for nerd guys like me, there's a sound in those diminished minor, harmonic minor, Phrygian stuff. There's a sound there that is, I can't think of how I want to put it, perfect for a sci-fi or horror movie nerd. Just like I think pointy guitars come from the same mental space as a sci-fi, D&D, Dungeons & Dragons, sci-fi guy, horror guys. They're the ones who end up liking the pointy guitars because they're looking at them like it's a Klingon weapon. And that's, I think, where some of that comes from. I think they gravitate towards the neoclassical stuff, the harmonic minor runs, things like that, because it gives you that same mysterious sound, that fantasy sort of sound that we're not used to having plugged into our ears 24/7. I think that's what I started picking up on that. If I had to say what I sound like now, I probably sound rhythmically like, if I'm lucky on my best day, like Alex Lifeson, a lot of suspended chords, things like that, because I'm usually the only guitar player. I'm trying to keep a lot of sound going. Solos, George Lynch is a good way to put it. I ended up settling somewhere in the middle. Like you listen to Lynch, a lot of pentatonics, some harmonic minor, Phrygian mode stuff, and he uses it more as color. He'll end his note on a little minor thing, but or end the solo on a minor thing, but half the solo was just pentatonic runs before that. But he's got that weird little niche where he's got both of those sounds in his playing as well. On my best day, I aspire to that.
That's right. You use your guitar as a batleth then. Wow. There you go. It's all coming clear now. Why it's pointy, why, how you get your sound, where it's all derived from.
I think there is something to that. If you watch the people that are, like I said, fantasy guys, D&D guys, things like that, any role-playing game guys, they're the guys who tend to gravitate to they're not the guys who gravitate to the Stones or bands like that, like roots rock guys. They're not the Bruce Springsteen fans, but they're going to be the one who has the BC Rich Warlock collection.
So you're talking about guitars like that. I'm fascinated by your love of those type of guitars. It's very era specific for me because, we're the same vintage. And that was what was really cool when we were getting started. I think Joe Perry had a Warlock or something and had one of those 10-string ones or something at some point.
Had a 10-string pitch. That thing was beautiful.
This was like the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. You come by it honestly. You have no choice but to end up where you've ended up.
I've noticed recently, I was into what I'll say popular music. What was popular at the time through most stages of my life. I kept my interest in stuff that I originally listened to when I was a teenager, early He's late 20s. Well, I kept that. I like it. I listen to it to this day. But I'd say 2/3 of my Spotify listening goes back to music that either came out or that I discovered between the ages of 16 and 22. Guitar loves tend to exist in that same time frame, as you pointed out. I think you love things that make you feel comfortable and come from a period where you felt safe and good about the world and you had dreams. Because those are the things that you look at and you associate with a happy period. That's when I was young. I remember when I wanted an Ibanez Iceman. They sold them in the record stores around here in late 70s, right?
That's good.
I can't see an Ibanez Iceman without being transported back to 1978 stand. I don't know if you guys had something called Sam Goody record store.
No, we have Long and McQuaid.
There you go. And they're super famous. So same idea. I stood in there looking at a guitar that only cost $475 back in 1978, but it might as well have been $1 million because I was whatever I was, a 14-year-old, 13-year-old kid. But I could still see that guitar now and be looking at Kiss albums in my head in Sam Goody, wishing I had that guitar. And yes, I do have one, by the way, because
I've always wanted one, and I've almost bought one several times, but I'll tell you, my white whale guitar is an Ovation breadwinner. I've always wanted one because David Cassidy played one on the Partridge Family, and his name was Keith on the show. My name was Keith, and that's what set me off. From that point on, I had to have that guitar, and I've never got one.
You should. They're running about $1,200. So I was looking at them the other day. The breadwinner, the preacher, and then there was one more. I can't think of the
Deacon.
I'm sorry, the Deacon.
Yeah. Preacher. There's a preacher and a deacon, and the other one that was a little different was the Viper. The Viper was kind of like a telly.
Yeah. I wouldn't turn down any. I have none of the 4 of those. I've been looking at them since they were new, since the 70s. They're out there. You can get them. You know, you're not gonna get them cheap, but you're not gonna have to pay an arm and a leg either. They're not like an old Les Paul for $5,000. You can get into a beautiful one for $1,200-$1,300, and we should.
That's right. We both probably should.
I
was at an open mic thing about pre-COVID, and this old guy, and I know here we are talking about somebody who's an old guy, comes up, pulls up this Ovation case. I go, Ovation? What the heck's he doing? Pulls it out, and it's a breadwinner. I'm like, oh. And from then on, I've been back on. I've been back in on the hunt. But they're rare up here. I've seen them on Reverb and that, but they're usually, like you said, $1,500 US. And, you got to get them shipped and all that kind of stuff. So I've been kind of holding off.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited to introduce Aurelia today and get to hear what she's up to. So, Aurelia, take it away. What are you all about?
Hi. All right. Like it was already mentioned, my name is Aurelia. I am a Twitch streamer and cosplayer.
Now, for, let's say, somebody doesn't know what a Twitch streamer is, could you give them a little quick rundown of what is that exactly?
Yeah, sure. So there's a platform out there called Twitch, which is basically a live streaming platform that can be used for a multiple different type of categories, but I tend to stick with the gaming subcategory. So what I do is I will go live on this platform called Twitch, and I will play video games and interact with my audience as well as the game, and basically just kind of experience the game with my viewers together, as well as also giving my input as well, because I've been playing video games for, a very, very long time, since I was a little kid. So I have a lot of thoughts about video games, and sometimes it will also be kind of like a pseudo critique of the game while I'm playing it, but it's mostly supposed to be sort of like an interactive community-based platform.
Would you say it's like a really good way to hang out with people with like interests as well as friends? Like, because people who you don't know can go on there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So basically your profile is public, and when you go live, that is also public. So people can actually search for you by category. So before you even start broadcasting, you can specify what game you're going to be playing. You can add tags onto your profile saying you want to hang out with specific communities. Like you can say that I want to hang out, like I am a female identifying streamer, and people can search for categories that align with their interests. Or you can mention that you're LGBTQIA+, or you can say you're a speed runner, which is specifically people that do try to play and finish games as fast as possible and beat world records. So some people will search for that category specifically, and that's how people can go on and find you. Obviously, if you want to share with your friends, you can let them know you are a streamer and they can come and hang out with you virtually, but it also leaves the door open for meeting new people that are just browsing the platform.
Oh, have you met a bunch of people over Twitch?
I have, yes. So there was a lot of friends that I made through streaming that I would have never met through any other means. There's a lot of really supportive, smaller streamer communities out there that are all about propping each other up and basically getting engagement and interaction with their channels. And I met a lot of people through those avenues. Some people that are overseas, some people down south from us, as well as people even within our own country as well that I would have never met.
Wow. So you did mention cosplaying as well in your introduction. I'm just wondering if is there a crossover between Twitch and cosplaying?
Yes, there is actually. So Twitch is not just for game streaming. It can be used for anything. There are just chatting channels where people just sit in a live and they will just interact with people in the comment section, and that's the entire kind of like vibe of the channel, is just being social with people out there. There's car communities that will stream and they can do stuff like that, but for cosplay, one of them is people will have what are called like maker streams. And they will do things like, there could be 3D modelers that make props for cosplay. They could be people who do sewing or embroidery, or they do foam crafting, anything like that. And a lot of cosplayers will actually go live and share their creative process with the community online.
Cool. So do you do any cosplay stuff on your Twitch streaming as well?
Yeah, if I have the means to, and I have the project available to do so, then yes, I have done that before, where I did a couple of streams where it was exclusively me just here at my desk, and I would be cutting and styling and sewing brand new wigs for a costume that I would have coming up.
You're someone who got me into it. I've tried it as well, and I really enjoyed it over the pandemic. It was one of the ways that I was able to, kind of hang out with friends. I enjoy video games as well. And it was just a way to hang out with people in a non-stressful environment and just have fun and relax with people. You know what it reminded me of? And I don't know, a lot of people might be a little bit younger, so they wouldn't know, but it reminded me of the old-timey arcades from like the 1980s, because you would specifically go down to play video games with friends, and you would all be around the one person playing games on one thing and like cheering them on or whatever and swapping turns, whatever. But this isn't a new thing. Video games have always been more of a community experience. And once the arcades kind of became less and we got things at home, things without Twitch, like without the platforms like Twitch, we kind of lost that community aspect of playing video games. So it's nice to have Twitch return that vibe where you can hang out, do something together that's fun, and not have it end necessarily, because a lot of people, I think, we will sit and watch movies together, but movies are only like between 90 and 120 minutes long. Whereas Twitch streaming, like, what would you say your regular length of Twitch streaming is?
So I would normally do anywhere between 2 to 2.5 hours, but I also know that I am a little bit of a short form streamer. I know that I will want to take breaks more often. There are some people that will go for like 3, 4, 5, sometimes longer, depending on what they're playing or if this is their full-time career. For me, it's one of those things where it's kind of like a side thing where it's something that I enjoy doing. And if revenue comes from it, that's a bonus, but it's not mandatory for me to have it. So that's why I prefer to do short form because I know personally as a streamer, the way that I keep myself interesting is by not burning myself out by going too long. It's very different from like just playing online games. Like if you go into like a Call of Duty lobby or something like that, like sure, the cooperative community aspect is still there, but I would say the spectator aspect of it is missing. So there's some people that don't want to play a video game, but they want to know how the story goes. And this is the perfect way for people to experience the game without having to buy it if they say don't feel like it or can't afford to, or they just want to be there for the social aspect and kind of just talk about the game. It's all there.
I can relate to that because I really enjoy the series and game The Last of Us, but I feel like if I tried to play it, it would be way too stressful.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to watch.
It's a pretty stressful game.
Yeah, I'm happy to watch someone else play it, but I do not want to play it because I think I'll just stress out. So I can see why being a spectator and not engaging, you get to enjoy not only the social aspect, but the game if you really like it without having to interact. So maybe you're tired after a long day at work or something, and you just want to put your feet up so you can enjoy it without having to like get involved in the way of controlling the whole situation. You just watch somebody else do it.
Hey there.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. I'm here today with Donna Noga. Donna is an editor. She works in the film industry. She works in television. She's had a long and varied career, and we just gonna say hi to Donna and ask her a few questions. How are you doing today anyway?
I'm doing good, thanks. What about you?
Living the dream, living life. Anyhow, so Donna, tell us, how'd you get started as an editor?
Well, the plan was just to edit for 2 years and become a director. That was the plan. I went into film school, and my first job in film was craft service. And then I got a job as continuity, but I always knew that I wanted to get into editing because I wanted to learn about the other directors and how they directed. But then I got an opportunity in editing, and I kind of stuck with it. I was one of the first people in Toronto to learn how to edit nonlinear. There was a transformation happening from 35 mil, where they were shooting on 35 mil, going to Avid. Or one time it was After Effects. So there was a couple of different softwares that were sort of competing for the nonlinear sector of filmmaking. So in that sense, it hasn't been that big of a transformation. I remember working with old-time editors back then, and they called me the computer baby. So it hasn't changed that much, but what I do understand is doing this for a long, long time, you're always behind the 8 ball. Basically, information and technology changes every 6 months. So you have to be used to the insecurity, and you'll never be ahead of it. You're always chasing it. So you got to be good with that insecurity. That's as simple as that.
So what's the platform everyone's using now?
Well, I would say the industry go-to would be Avid Media Composer, but I know Premiere Pro is doing some headwinds with a lot of short format. I can't stand the system because I find it, if you're bringing in a lot of footage, which you would if you're working on a series, and that Premiere Pro tends to loses its link to the media. So you have to be like super organized, and it's just hard to manage the media. Whereas Avid sort of creates a file called MXF, and once it's loaded, it knows where it is, and you never lose it.
Right.
So that's the only problem with Premiere Pro. You're just constantly sort of linking media. So yeah, I think the industry they tend to use media composers still.
Do you find it easier to work from home now than you did at the beginning of your career?
Oh, totally. Oh my God. Like it's a life changer. I wish I was working remotely, like when my kids were young, or, even in the 90s, because there was many nights where you'd be working past 12 o'clock in some desolate part of the city and rat rat-infested buildings, You'd be walking out of there at midnight or 1 o'clock by yourself, wondering, are you going to be okay? So yeah, working late and then just, making the big trot up my stairs to my pillow. Yeah, way easier. It's way easier taking breaks and, managing, doing laundry and, having lunch or whatever, yeah, working at home, I think is better, but it's not totally remote anymore either. Like they do tend to like you going into the office for whatever reason if you're on a big show.
Welcome, everybody, to the podcast today. I'm really excited to introduce Michelle Nuret, who I haven't seen in quite some time, but we go way back. And you're not an expert in just one thing. You're an expert in a bunch of different projects, in different types of music, neuro-linguistic programming. You've got Mo Mondays. You're doing Mo Mondays was a monthly speaker storytelling format, and people would go up and talk. And you were in how many different cities?
We were, I've just settled on a number, and because I couldn't really remember, and I just told everybody, yeah, we were in 16 cities across Canada and the US pre-COVID. But then I actually sat down with the list and I said, wait a minute, we were in close to 20.
Wow. How did you manage? Did you go around to all the cities or did you have a sort of franchise?
Well, it was licensed out to what we call Mo hosts in our community, and they would take it on. They would want to build their own little community locally, and some of them were amazing, like amazing, and some of them I wasn't so happy with.
Right. As anything, when it grows, it changes and can evolve in all sorts of different directions.
Came out of my experience as a professional speaker. And I really felt like, I breathe rarefied air because I get to go to conference and share the stage with all kinds of amazing speakers. And I know firsthand how powerful a well-crafted story is on the audience. But the other thing is, I'm also very aware of how powerful a processed story is for the teller. Right.
So something that they have really thought about. Is that what you mean by processed? Is
That's exactly what
literally
I mean.
Processed it and gone through and honed it to that point that we were talking about so that they can share the relevant details and the relevant points to the audience rather than trying to work it out in the moment.
So many people that I spoke to, not so many, but a lot of people says, oh, I know my story.
Right.
To which I'm thinking, unless you've told that story in public, preferably on stage, you actually don't know your story.
Yeah, that's so interesting because I would imagine, and I want to hear why, but I would imagine it would be because you're sharing your story and you're receiving the feedback from the audience, and that changes your perception of the story. Is that partially?
Well, I think that's part of it, but I think the important part of it is in leading up to it. It's just like, you know your story, but unless you've written it down or told it or both, it's like draft 0.5.
Yeah, it's part of the processing, as you said, is to engage with it on these different levels and within these different platforms of writing and saying it out loud a few times, practicing it.
Because it gives you the opportunity to say, well, is that really what I mean?
Yeah.
It gives you the opportunity to say, does this even make sense? Would it make sense to somebody else? But if it only makes sense to me, then I have to understand why it just makes sense to me. Maybe there's something underneath that I'm not saying because either I'm not acknowledging to myself or I just think it's so obvious. What is that?
There's a lot of that in.
There's a lot of that, right? So yeah, it's just like when you write an article. Would you expect to write an article and have it published when you haven't really written it down? Like if you just talked it into a microphone, the way you think you hear it in your head, and then that be published? You never expect that. You'd expect to go if somebody is not a writer, you'd say, well, I'd probably do 3 drafts. A writer would probably say, oh, yeah, if I'm not on draft 18, then it's probably not good enough, right? Or so you have to go through the processing. You know, my father had an expression. My father was also a writer. And he'd say in French, the faim vient en mangeant. The eating or that hunger comes from eating. And he applied that to writing. It says, as you write what you think you know, you learn more.
Yeah, that's a great insight.
You learn more. So you learn from writing what you think you know and discover what you don't yet know.
I love it.
Hey guys, we have another special guest. Anyone who I get on, I feel is a special guest, especially if it's somebody I know, been acquainted with for quite some time, probably about 15 years. Met in a backyard jam session at Ian Harvey's house. Got Sean O'Shea. He's also known as Mackie from the Haymacks. Sean's been a musician in Canada for at least 50 years. I think he said he started his first musical project in 1969. I'm dying to ask him all sorts of questions. Sean, how the heck are you?
I'm good, Keith. Glad to see you.
Why do you think Hit the Road Jack resonated with people so well?
Oh, there's over 1,000 people who, underneath is 1,000 memos that people sent to us.
Mm-hmm.
We got everything. But the funniest one was, you guys played it too fast, but I like the babes.
It's a great performance. Did that change anything for the band, though? I mean, 10 million views. Did it change your fan base? Did you get more opportunities? What came out of that?
Well, we saw a couple of videos that were, all of our stuff, we were like any other Toronto band from Scarborough. All of our stuff was sort of cruising around 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 hits maybe.
Mm-hmm.
That happened all of a sudden. Jailhouse Rock, our version of that, went up to about 250,000. We covered Rory McLaughlin down by the Henry Moore. That broke 100,000. And a lot of the other ones went up to 50, 60, 70,000. Basically, it just increased our hits on YouTube like crazy. But there's still a lot of, I don't know why some of the stuff, it's 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, it just stops there. People aren't interested.
I really do like Jailhouse Rock. I like the tempo. I like the vibe. But what I think, for me, what really does it are your videos. I love the videos. I love the black and white. I just like the look and feel of them. They're the band as far as I'm concerned. When I see that video, I know it's you guys.
When I first started this, I was going to do a stage musical about homelessness. And when I found out how much it cost to rent a hall, insure it, pay the actors, it's like $100,000. So basically, I thought, well, I've got these songs, and what do I do? So anyways, I said, well, maybe I'll put out a video and see if it's worthwhile. So we did a cover of You'll Never Walk Alone, that Broadway hit. And got some friends of mine who I'd known for years and played in bands with. And it got really good response. So, oh, maybe I got something here. So we just kept putting them out. As long as people liked them, we said, we'll keep putting them out. And it's got more and more and more and more until Hit the Road Jack just blew up. I think it's 27 or 28 videos on YouTube.
So how often do you put out videos as a
we try to do 2 or 3 a year. On good years, we get 3 out. We got to find a venue. It's a big deal to set up, especially since I'm not living in Toronto anymore. It takes more time.
Hey, they can always shoot in Windsor.
Well, I would do it, but the guys they don't want to travel. That's one of the reasons why we love this video thing, because they're all seniors, and we're on the road for years in snowstorms and Timmins and loading the truck in blizzards, and basically now we don't have to load and drive in blizzards and rainstorms. It's just like we stay home, we make music, it's fun. We don't have to compromise ourselves for a record company or anything.
Hey guys, here we are with Darius Dominguez, best known for his sharp analysis, commentary on Toronto Maple Leafs, does a lot of work with Leafs Digest and the Maple Leafs aggregator. I know him as a hard rock, solid if not spectacular defenseman with the High Park Lions. But here we are today, and I want to ask Darius stuff about his career. But first of all, how you doing?
I am doing great. Thank you so much for having me on today, Keith. And I try to be the best defenseman, but better forward.
Listen,
trying my hand at you.
You're a versatile guy. Hey, I'm always surprised when people can go from forward to defenseman in the same game. I can't even go from the offensive zone to the defensive zone in the same games. I guess you bypass the traditional go to broadcasting school, kind of Humber College kind of thing.
Well, it's funny you bring up Humber College, actually, because I did end up going to Humber College for broadcasting. I did a 2-year program there in 2017 to 2019, which was a great experience. And you meet a lot of people, you get a lot of hands-on experience and stuff like that. But a lot of the stuff that I was doing there, I was already doing on my own. I just learned how to do it professionally, I guess, and how to build those connections and whatnot. So I wouldn't say I bypassed it. I still went there, got that experience and, went through schooling, but I was already doing a lot of that like before when I was around maybe 14 to 16 years old. I was already diving into that. I was meeting people like Roger Lajoie and meeting him, working with him. And he was on Sportsnet, which was pretty cool. I'm there as a 16-year-old kid. I'm like, what is even going on right now? So that was pretty cool. But yeah, I wouldn't say I bypassed it. Still went through all of that, but I was doing it from a younger age.
Right. So did you ever want to think about being behind the camera or being on, just actually creating the stuff, but not necessarily being a personality? Was that ever a choice?
Definitely. I think around like my early 20s, I was like, maybe I want to pull away from this because I wasn't necessarily working at the time. Like I always loved being in front of the camera and doing that, but it wasn't working. So I was like, how can I find a different avenue to, maybe be behind the camera and maybe make some money as well? Because obviously that's something,
yeah, right.
You got to figure that part out, right? So went more behind the camera. I was doing more real estate content creation, like totally like not my face whatsoever, completely 180. I was doing real estate stuff like construction before and afters, automotive advertising, stuff like that, where you go and you film different things. And that was cool, but it didn't really speak to me like being in front of the camera and analyzing and talking about hockey or sports, right? It always came back to that. So I did get out of it a little bit for a couple of years where I was like, maybe I'll explore this because I did like doing, photography and all of that stuff as well. But I did go back to what I originally wanted to do, which is what I'm doing now in front of the camera, breaking down, film, whatever it is, the breaking news in sports. So did dabble with that for a little bit, but ultimately I like being in front of the camera better, I think.
Leafs Digest, that's where listen, it's funny. We're on the same hockey team, and I'm watching this guy on Leaf Digest, and I didn't put 2 and 2 together for I don't know, 3 months. I go, hey, wait a minute, that's the same guy. Anyway, but how did you first come to meet Nick and get tied up in that thing?
Yeah, pretty interesting story actually. So I was just looking on LinkedIn and LinkedIn jobs, right? Just to see, what was going on, like most people do, right? Found that posting, and we as a company right now, obviously I'm doing some recruitment for them right now. Digest Media, I'm full time doing that as well. So, just see a posting out there for a Leafs channel, and I was like, hey, that fits exactly with what I want to do. That would be really cool for that experience. Clearly, they have some strategy behind it as well, so that'd be good. A great experience to do what I want to do and also learn how to get better at it, right? So applied for it. I wrote a cover letter. Like I wanted it so bad. I was like, I really want this role. So ended up getting hired for it. And it was a, really small thing when it started. I think it was, when I was hired on, it was around 2,000 subscribers, and it grew to that point pretty quickly. Like it was a small thing. But then when I joined, it was a bit of a slow burn. So, like you mentioned, meeting you and playing on the same hockey team. At first, it was kind of like I didn't really mention anything because it was a small kind of podcast YouTube thing. But then it grew over the course of a year to now, 23,000 subscribers. It's a massive thing. I am getting recognized sometimes when I go play hockey, or one time at a grocery store, and I was like, this is a little bit weird. Nothing crazy, right? But
one time in the produce section at a grocery store.
Exactly, right? So it's nothing crazy, but it has gotten to a point where people are like, oh, I do recognize your voice. I do watch your show pretty regularly, right? So it's gotten to the point where we haven't even missed a daily upload since March of 2023. It's pretty crazy. Awesome. So we've been super consistent. I think people are starting to come to us more so over the course of the last 6 months for their daily Leafs news, everything that's happening with the team. So it's been awesome. Like it's exactly what I want to do. I've always stayed on top of what the Leafs are doing since I was in elementary school at this point, like the day-to-day moves and stuff like that. So it's grown to a point that has been awesome. You can connect with your audience as well. You share moments with the audience, the people who are watching with you as well. Like, oh, I remember that moment. That was awesome. I wish this Leafs team was more like that, stuff like that. So It's been really cool. So the biggest thing to me is, of course, you want to see the numbers go up and all of that stuff. That's all great. But the connection with the people watching has been like the best thing, because they can connect with what you're talking about day to day. So that's been a lot of fun.
Well, hey, everybody. I'm really happy to introduce today to the podcast Sonia Zabak, a wonderful musician, artist, and business running owner here in Belleville, Ontario. One of the things recently you may have heard Sonia on was the I Will Survive viral video on YouTube. I Will Survive Fight Back song, and which is amazing because your vocal acuity is very much similar to the original singer of the song,
Right.
and
Yeah.
also in a band called Q the Funk,
I
where you
am.
also sing.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that was a whole journey. And it was actually because of my band that I was asked to do the song originally. So, a local teacher named Gord Moran wrote the lyrics, and his best friend from childhood is Wayne McFall, who was in a couple of bands with my dad in the 70s. And then Wayne and his wife come out to as many of my band's shows as they can. Because we cover, classic funk, soul, and disco party songs.
Yeah.
And I Will Survive is one of the songs that we do with the band. And so when Gord wrote these lyrics, and he called it We Will Survive, about the tariff situation that Trump had introduced between the US and Canada at the time. And this was back in February when
Yeah, February 2025.
not too long ago at all. Yeah. They just said, you know what, let's record it. Let's just do it. Because Wayne has been in the local music industry forever. So he said, you know what, I have somebody who can probably sing it. Let me get in touch with her. And so I said yes immediately. I was like, yeah, absolutely. This is hilarious. Let's do this.
Yeah.
And the original song was like 8 minutes long. He wrote so many lines of music. It was crazy. But they edited it down to 4.5 minutes to put onto the YouTube video. Wayne's son, Jesse, posted it on his just personal account, and nothing else on the account related to music. But then all of a sudden, it blows up, and we are now sitting just shy of 2 million views on YouTube alone.
Wow.
Yeah. And then it was
Wow.
taken by TikTok, and viewed like hundreds of thousands to millions of times there on people's
Yeah.
various videos. And yeah, it just kind of exploded, and then kind of like, mellowed out for a little bit. And then all of a sudden, Rod Stewart came and had a show in Toronto and found the video, or at least someone's lyric video version of it,
Right.
on YouTube, and decided to play it for his crowd there. And
During the concert.
right at the end, like after they were doing their bows,
Wow.
he's like, I want everyone to hear this, and just puts it up on the screen. And I had friends at the show, and they were like, you have no idea what just happened. He played your song. I'm like, no, he didn't.
And you're like, I'm singing at a Rod Stewart.
Yeah.
Basically.
It was so funny. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I was literally just sitting in my bed scrolling on my phone, and then got a call from friends of my family, and they're like, look at this. And she sent me a video.
Oh my God. Yeah, that must have been so wild to just, well,
Yeah.
the whole thing must have been so wild just
It
to
was.
see go and do it and just make it happen that one day, and then see all this stuff blow up.
Oh, honestly. And it's been so cool. And my favorite part is still, I can go to like a downtown festival here in Belleville, and there are still people that come up to me. I have no idea who they are, and are just like, oh my gosh, I heard your song. So funny. I knew Gord. I taught with him because, of course, he passed away the day
Yeah.
before the song was released on YouTube.
Yeah.
And I taught with Gord for so many years. He was wonderful. I love what you did with the song. Like, it's just so great to have it as something to remember him by, and also to sort of bolster ourselves still.
Yeah. It's a great legacy for him to leave,
Sure.
and a support, and it's a fight song for
It is.
everybody to get in on.
Yeah. It was so much fun to record it. And then, of course, we did the French translation of the song as well.
Smart. Good
Yeah.
idea.
That was a lot more work, like a lot. I had 2 friends of mine, one a musician and one not, help me with the translation. And then I had another friend of mine who happened to be in Belleville at the time, who helped me in the studio with pronunciation while I was recording it. And
Wonderful.
woo, it was fun. It was real fun. But
Yeah,
I mean, that video.
your brain's on fire because you're doing music and language at the same time.
I
And
don't know.
I haven't actually heard the French version, but I
It's
should.
there. It's there. It was originally linked in our first YouTube video, but then the link somehow got messed up. Anyway, I have
Yeah.
to tell him to fix that, but it's there. If you just go to
Yep.
Jesse's account, it's there. Yeah.
For
So we
sure.
did that, and then I don't know. Now I'm just living my life.
Yeah, that's a big part of creating and bringing community together.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that you're continuing to do in Cue the Funk.
Yes. I mean, to be honest, most of where my band plays is Prince Edward County, Belleville. I mean, we've been, to Peterborough, we've been to Orangeville, but these are for just like one-off things.
Yeah.
We played this summer at like a trailer park, sort of like on the way to Gananoque. That was a blast.
Cool.
But yeah, for the moment, we're just here.
Yeah.
And I know I do play with a pianist, John McFarlane, and we do some different stuff like in Kingston because he's there. And I do always enjoy playing in Kingston. We played on Wolf Island. But yeah, I don't know. You know what? Anywhere that I get to play is always a good place to play. I've never been sad to sing anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. So thank you so much for coming and telling me about what you've been up to lately and what is coming in the future. I really appreciate you coming on the podcast today.
Thank you so much for having me, Zandra. This is great. I had a great time.